Do you ever wonder how much your subcontractors are impacting your labor rate or your profitability, either positively or negatively? Well, that is the topic of this week's Planning for Profit Minute. Now, in general, when we're dealing with subcontractors, our general recommendation is that if your total subcontractors for your company are $25,000 a year or less, then I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about this, because whatever markup that you are adding to the subcontractors isn't really having that great of an impact on your company because the total dollar amount's not that much. So I would just add those in as a variable expense and leave them there. Whatever profit you get is gravy on your side. However, some companies have significant amounts of subcontractor labor or costs that they're incurring in their company. And so for that reason, for you, we built that into the software itself. So to look at that, for starters, we're going to go into cost input into the software tool itself. And when we're in there, you'll notice we've got the subcontractor category right down here at the bottom. So when I go into subcontractors, we can now enter in these costs. And the reason why we want to factor this in is because most contractors will put a markup or a margin on top of the cost for the subcontractor. So we're going to mark up what the subcontractor is charging me, and we're going to pass that along to our customer. And that extra margin that we're putting in will offset some of our overhead for the rest of the company, which means it'll lower my labor rate or increase my profit, one or the other. So to put this in, we can simply come in here and put in a line item. We're going to add a subcontractor cost just like every other expense that we have in our company. And so I'm going to put in here, and I'm just going to call it new sub. I like to spread these on direct labor hours because, again, typically we're hiring subcontractors to do work for us for specific jobs. The more jobs we do, the more subcontractor costs we're going to incur. By putting out on direct labor hours, the software will then spread those costs based on my billable hours in each department. So I'll leave it on direct labor hours, and I'm going to say we've got a sub that we're doing work with that we're spending $50,000 a year. Now, again, I can see here now under allocated costs, it's bumping that total cost up or down per month proportional to the number of billable hours we have throughout the course of the year. In my case, I actually put a 15% gross margin on there. So I divide it by a 0.85 to get my total cost that's going to go to the customer. So we're going to sell that $50,000 worth of materials to the customers for a total of $58,824. Now I'm going to allocate that to my individual department. And we're going to say in this case, it is 100% the installation department. So we're going to allocate the entire expense as well as the revenue coming in to that department. So we now have that new sub listed here and the revenue that it's going to bring in. So we're seeing both the cost, the expense of the sub, as well as the total revenue side that we're bringing in. Now when I go in and look at any of my reports, so I can simply go into reports and I'll go to my profit statement. And I can see in my profit statement, when I look at my installation department, which is a department that we allocated that to, I can scroll down and I will now see that we've got subcontractor sales showing up here, right? And so we've got that revenue in that installation department. Now I had subcontractor sales that were already in there. So we're seeing revenues to the tune of $183,000 in revenue for what we're charging for our subcontractors. And then under the cost of sales section, we also have subcontractor cost. And so we're recognizing both of those in here. And so as a result, it's going to increase my gross profit because we have not only the cost, but we have more than that for revenue, which means we have a gross profit. So it increases gross profit, ultimately increasing our net profit for the company. Now, again, I can also go in one more place and look at my labor rate analysis, and I can see in my installation department, it's showing specifically in this case, my total subcontractor revenue as well as my total cost of that. And in this case, I have $33,000 in my total subcontractor revenue left over after I paid those subs to offset my overhead and lower my hourly rate or increase my net profit, one or the other. And that is this week's Planning for Profit Minute.